Hello, 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 and welcome back to Speak English with Luna. I am so incredibly happy that you decided to press play today. You could be doing anything else right now. You could be scrolling through social media or watching a movie, but you chose to be here. You chose to invest in yourself, and that makes you special. Today, we are diving into a topic that is a bit tough love. We are talking about why most people fail and how you can be different.
It is a pleasure to be here, Luna. It is a vital conversation to have because failure in language learning is rarely about a lack of talent. It is almost always about the approach.
Exactly, David. And listen, everyone, I have a challenge for you today. Right now, as we start, the English I am using is quite simple. It's friendly, it's clear, it's what we call B1 level. But as this episode progresses, David and I are going to take you higher. We are going to start using more complex words, more sophisticated structures, and by the end, we will be speaking at a C1 level, the level of a true professional. My challenge to you is this. Do not turn this off when it gets hard. If you feel a bit lost in 10 minutes, stay with us. That is where the growth happens. David, do you think they can do it?
I know they can, but they must be willing to feel a little uncomfortable. Most people fail because they stop as soon as the easy part ends. They love the beginning, the honeymoon phase of learning, but they run away when the mountain gets steep.
So true. We want you to be the person who climbs the mountain. We want you to be the person who finishes this 15-minute session and says, wow, I understood more than I thought I could. We are going to talk about the psychology of success, the traps of the average learner, and how to shift your mindset from trying to becoming. Are you ready? Are you sitting comfortably? Maybe you are driving or walking the dog. Wherever you are, take a deep breath. Let's do this together. David, I'm so ready to get into the why behind the failure.
Then let us begin. It starts with the way we view the word fluency itself.
Before we go any further, I want to tell you something very important. If you are listening to this and you feel like you have failed in the past, maybe you started a course and stopped, or you bought books you never opened, it is okay. Truly, you are in a safe space here. David and I are not here to judge you. We are here to hold your hand and show you the way. Many people feel ashamed of their English level, but shame is the enemy of learning.
That is a very profound point, Luna. In my 30 years of teaching, I've seen that the students who succeed are not the ones who never make mistakes. They're the ones who feel safe enough to make many mistakes. If you feel nervous when you speak, or if your heart beats fast when you have to use English, please know that this is a natural physiological response. It does not mean you are bad at languages. It simply means you care.
Exactly. We want this podcast to be your comfort zone that slowly pushes you into your growth zone. Don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry about your accent. Right now, in this moment, you are doing exactly what you need to do. You are listening, you are breathing, and you are learning. We are going to take this step by step. If a sentence feels too long, just let it wash over you. The rhythm of the language is just as important as the words themselves. David and I are right here with you every step of the way. You are safe, you are capable, and you are already different from the majority because you are still here. Okay, David, let's get into the meat of the topic. Why do most people fail? We see it all the time. People start with so much energy in January, and by March, they've given up. Is it just a lack of willpower?
I don't believe it is willpower alone, Luna. I believe most people fail because they focus on the what instead of the how and the why. They focus on grammar rules, the what, without understanding the psychological mechanics of acquisition. Most learners suffer from what I call the perfectionist's paradox. They want to speak perfectly, so they speak less, and because they speak less, they never improve. It is a cycle of stagnation.
The perfectionist's paradox, I love that. It's like trying to learn to ride a bike without ever wanting to wobble. But you have to wobble to find your balance. As we move into a slightly more complex level of English here, I want to talk about the intermediate plateau. This is where things get tricky. You aren't a beginner anymore. You can say, hello, how are you? But you feel stuck. You feel like you aren't making progress anymore.
That plateau is actually an illusion, Luna. It is a sign that your brain is reorganizing information. Think of it like a construction site. On the surface, it looks like a mess, but underneath, the foundation is being poured. Most people fail because they misinterpret this lack of visible progress as a lack of ability. They think, I hit my limit. But there is no limit. There is only a need for a change in strategy. This is where we transition from basic communication to what I call aspirational English.
Aspirational English. Tell me more about that, because I think our listeners really want to reach that level where they feel sophisticated, right?
Precisely. To move from B2 to C1, one must stop treating English as a school subject and start treating it as a lifestyle. The people who succeed are those who integrate the language into their identity. They don't just study English for 30 minutes, they live in English. They change their phone settings, they listen to complex podcasts like this one, and they seek out intellectual challenges. Let me tell you a story about a former student of mine, Thomas. Thomas was a brilliant engineer, but he was terrified of sounding childish in English.
Oh, I know that feeling. That's the biggest fear, isn't it? Looking like you aren't as smart as you actually are just because you can't find the right word.
Exactly. Thomas would remain silent in international meetings. He had the best ideas in the room, but he stayed in the shadows. He was failing not because of his vocabulary, but because of his fear of being perceived as inadequate. We had to shift his focus. I told him, Thomas, your goal is not to use the most complex words. Your goal is to achieve resonance with your audience. We started working on his nuances, how to use intonation to convey authority, how to use hedging language to sound more diplomatic.
Hedging language. That sounds like a C1 concept. For those listening, that's when we use words like perhaps, it seems that, or it might be the case to sound more professional and less aggressive. It's a very sophisticated way to speak.
Indeed. Once Thomas embraced the complexity of the language, the shadows, and the highlights, his confidence skyrocketed. He stopped failing because he stopped trying to be a perfect English student and started being a global communicator. The difference is subtle but monumental. Most people fail because they are trying to reach a finish line that doesn't exist. Fluency isn't a destination, it's a journey of constant refinement.
I love that, a journey of constant refinement. As we are speaking now, I hope you, our listener, are noticing that the vocabulary David is using is getting a bit more specialized. We are talking about resonance, inadequate, monumental, and diplomatic. If you are still following us, you are already doing the work. You are already being different from the majority who would have clicked away by now.
Let us consider the cognitive load. When you listen to someone speaking at a high level, your brain has to work harder to decode the meaning and the intent. This effort, this slight feeling of brain fatigue, is actually the sound of your neurons connecting. To be different, to be the 1% who actually reaches C1, you must fall in love with that fatigue. You must see it as a workout for your mind. Most people fail because they want the result without the cognitive labor. They want the hacks and the shortcuts.
And there are no shortcuts to greatness, right? But there are better ways to travel. Instead of a boring textbook, you have this conversation. Instead of a list of words, you have a story about Thomas. David, before we move to our word tour, what is the number one psychological trait of someone who succeeds against all odds?
Resilience, but specifically linguistic resilience. It is the ability to keep your heart open and your mind engaged even when you don't understand 20% of what is being said. It is the courage to stay in the conversation until the light comes back on. That is the secret. That is how you become different.
It is time for our favorite segment of the show. It is time for the word tour. This is the part where we take those sophisticated, beautiful words that David used and we put them right into your English backpack so you can start using them today. David, you used some heavy hitters today. Let's start with a big one, paradox.
Paradox is a statement or a situation that seems to contradict itself but may actually be true. For example, the more you fail, the faster you learn. That is a paradox. In your English journey, remember this. The paradox of fluency is that you must be willing to sound like a child before you can sound like a philosopher.
I love that. My turn. Let's look at stagnation. It sounds a bit heavy, doesn't it? Stagnation is when something stops growing or moving. Think of a pond where the water doesn't flow. In your studies, you might say, I felt a sense of stagnation in my progress, so I decided to change my routine. It's a great word to describe feeling stuck.
Very good. Next is resonance. This is a C1 level word, everyone. Resonance is when something has a deep meaning or impact that lasts. When you speak with resonance, people don't just hear your words, they feel your intent. Example, his message had a deep resonance with the entire international team.
And how about nuance? A nuance is a very small, subtle difference in meaning, feeling, or sound. To reach a high level, you have to appreciate nuances. Example, I am finally beginning to understand the nuance between being assertive and being aggressive in English.
And finally, resilience. This is the most important one for today. It is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties. If you make a mistake and you keep going, that is resilience. Example, her linguistic resilience allowed her to finish the presentation even after she forgot a specific word.
Paradox, stagnation, resonance, nuance, and resilience. 5 powerful words to make you sound and feel more sophisticated. Now, before we head to our final thoughts, it is time for our community challenge. This is where we stop being just voices in your ears and start a real conversation with you. David, I want our listeners to really reflect on what we discussed today regarding failure and growth. So here is our question for you today. When you think about your English journey, what is the specific perfectionist's paradox that has been holding you back the most? Is it the fear of your accent? Or perhaps the fear of making a small grammar mistake in front of your boss?
And more importantly, what is one small, brave action you can take this week to practice linguistic resilience? It doesn't have to be a big speech. It could be as simple as asking a question in a meeting or listening to a difficult podcast without subtitles.
Share your answers with us. We want to see you being different. We want to see you succeeding. We have reached the end of our journey today. Now, I have to ask, did you make it? If you are hearing my voice right now, it means you successfully completed the challenge. You stayed until the very end, even as the English became more complex and the concepts more sophisticated. Well, you are officially part of the small percentage of people who do not give up when the mountain gets steep. How do you feel? I hope you feel proud, because David and I are certainly proud of you.
Indeed, you have exercised your linguistic resilience today. Remember, the path to mastery is not a straight line, but a series of moments just like this one, moments where you chose to stay engaged. Keep showing up, keep listening, and the growth will follow naturally. It has been a true pleasure sharing this space with you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, dear listener. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share this episode with one friend who also wants to be different. Until next time, keep dreaming in English. Goodbye.